What's up, guys? Jake Noaker from Tapped Out. You can check out the podcast Saturdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the BetQL network. But tonight, or today, whenever you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, I have an awesome guest, one of my good friends from the MMA Twitterverse. Many of you know him as Kevjitsu. I know him as, and most of you will know him as, Kevin Shaughnessy. Kev, my man, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Jake?
We're chilling a little early in the morning here, but opposite coast, we had to make it work. Special guest, I will stay up late for you.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna ask you questions. I know a lot of these answers. I'm sure some of the people watching will know a lot of these answers, but let's start out by just like kind of telling the audience who you are, like where you're from, what do you do? Obviously you're a fighter, but just fill us in on the life of Kev a little bit,
Well, I grew up in a city called Waltham, Massachusetts. It's about 20-ish minutes outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And it's like a fairly big town, like 70,000 people or something like that. So I grew up there. I started training jiu-jitsu after high school when I was about 20 years old. My dad had passed away in 2013. So my little brother and I wanted to do something productive. I started bringing him to the gym with me, and we were lifting a lot. And I met a jiu-jitsu gym manager at the workout world I was lifting at. And he invited my brother and I to come for a free session one day. We went for the free session, got hooked on jiu-jitsu, got my ass whooped by some 16-year-old kid in the gi for like literally an hour. Like he just was ragdolling me, and I was so confused because I thought I was kind of tough growing up, getting in fights and stuff. I could usually hold my own pretty good. And there's a 16-year-old kid just demolishing me. And I was like, wow, I had so many questions. So my brother and I got hooked, and that's how the training started and everything. And I was doing some not so great stuff after high school, and that kind of helped like merge me into a better path, rather than I was just selling a lot of weed and stuff, like moving about pound a week of weed from my apartment from my mom's house. And the jiu-jitsu and martial arts kind of took me in that good path instead. So
such a classic story, not necessarily selling pounds of weed out of your mom's house, but just like MMA seems to get people out of trouble, out of rough spots in their life, so
yeah, for real.
So you said you train. Before we get to that real quick, you train and fight, but before we get to that real quick, you're in your car at your lunch break at 10 o'clock p.m. You don't need to tell me where you work, but just, you're not a full-time fighter. You do this on the side. So what do you do for a living?
Yeah. So basically I end up working anywhere from like 40 to 48 hours a week. I work at a food warehouse. So basically I work at a food warehouse in Portland, and we distribute, we have all these trucks in front of me. So basically what we do is we load up these trucks with pallets of food all night long. And then the truck drivers come in the morning, grab the trucks, and they drive them all over the Pacific Northwest, like Seattle, all different places in Oregon, a bunch of really famous food shops here, pizza places, etc., restaurants, donut shops. So I can be making pallets of flour all night, milk, eggs, cheese. It can be dry goods like honey and all this other stuff too. So I'm basically building pallets for like anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a night. And that's after training all day. So I work about like 5:30 p.m. until anywhere from 2 to like 4:30 in the morning usually.
Yeah, that's a long day, man. Especially you, because you work after you train.
Yeah. So I wake up in the morning and I go straight to American Top Team in Portland. That's where I train now. I moved out here March 2020, so right before the pandemic. And I actually moved here to transition into MMA from jiu-jitsu. I had gotten my purple belt in jiu-jitsu December 2019. And I said when I got my purple belt, I wanted to transition into MMA. So my wife and I, she encouraged me to go for it. She actually found the American Top Team in Portland for me and was like, hey, I found this gym over here. I did my research, and we moved out here, started training there. And I kind of lost focus to the other question. What was it again?
No, I was just saying how you're a working man, essentially just balancing the two jobs, but you kind of transitioned into what I was going to get to next.
Yeah, my bad. But
no, you're good.
So basically I work all night, and then I train all day in the morning. Sometimes I get to go in a little bit later into work on Mondays because I have class to teach. And on Thursdays, like today, I teach a cardio kickboxing class at 5:30. So I go into work a little bit later, but But yeah, I basically work all night loading up these trucks with food and ship them all out. And then I train during the day all day.
It's crazy, man, because I have to go to the gym and train after work so I can go home and go to bed. So that's crazy that you work a full night of work afterwards.
Yeah,
So
I'm fucking exhausted when I get home. So
yeah, I bet, man. You look beat right now. You had a long weekend. We'll get into that. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, last week I had the fight. I still worked like 36 hours last week on top of it too. So that was ahead of the weight cut and everything. So
it's gonna pay off. I mean, it already is paying off, it seems. But
we're getting there.
For the casuals out there that don't know, just why don't you drop some names? Who you train with at the gym? Like, brag a little bit.
So I was enticed to move to the gym because of the professor there, Professor Fabiano Scherner. He's a multiple-time jiu-jitsu world champion. I think he's up to like 13-time world champion by now. He just recently won another Masters World Championship this last year. So I wanted to go to an MMA gym that had a really good jiu-jitsu program, so my jiu-jitsu could keep building and I can eventually achieve my black belt. Because like I said, I moved out here as a fresh purple belt, so there's still a lot for me to learn at that point. Even at this point as a brown belt, I still have a lot to learn. So I wanted to make sure I had a high quality instructor. He has actually fought in the UFC, Professor Fabiano Scherner. So someone who's actually been in the cage, done the damn thing. Ed Herman is one of my main coaches. He's been in my corner for all 3 of my fights, my 2 MMA fights and my kickboxing fight. Ricky Simone, Austin Vanderford and Paige Van Zant were training out here full time when I first moved out here as well. So that would also entice me to move out here. We just had a lot of high level guys like Brent Primus also trains out here. I get to train with him weekly as well. He's in most of the sessions that I'm training in. He'll be on the mats at the same time. Same with Ricky. So yeah, those are some of the pros. I train with my main man, Brian Sherd. You guys will see him on Twitter all the time too, Lil B. That's my main dude, my amateur training partner. Yeah, that's my guy right there. So that would be my main people that I got to name drop.
Oh, we love Lil B. Don't worry about that, man.
Yeah.
So obviously it's paying off. All this talent at the gym and the dedication putting in is paying off. So we talked about you being a fighter. For those that don't know, Kevin just had his second amateur fight this weekend. Won decision.
Couple marks,
a little beat up. 2-0. And then I don't know if he'll say this, so I'll brag for him. Kevin is currently the number 2 ranked flyweight in the Pacific Northwest amateur scene. So Kev, like, just tell us about the fight. Tell us about the prep. I know you had a rough weight cut. Tell us about that. Tell us about the fight. Tell us about this week recovery. Like, I just want to hear about it,
So, I mean, honestly, the way that everything went down for this fight was pretty crazy because as an amateur, obviously there aren't many brown belts in jiu-jitsu as an amateur fighter. There aren't many purple belts in jiu-jitsu as amateur fighters. A lot of these guys are white and blue belts with like good striking backgrounds or maybe a good wrestling background or something. So I actually had a tough time. At March 5th, there was a fight card for the FCFF, the people I just fought for, but I got turned down 4 times for that card actually. Because of my brown belt, which like I don't blame the kids' coaches. They don't want to put them in an amateur fight versus brown belt, but
they don't want.
It was getting kind of frustrating. It was getting kind of frustrating for me though. So like I had been training so hard since my last fight was last July. So from July until March, like I expected a fight in March on the FCFF card, but I was getting turned down left and right, like I said. So this kid Daniel Jimenez fought my teammate Robbie. And they had a 3-round fight, and this kid Daniel ended up triangling my teammate Robbie in the last minute of the fight in the 3rd round. So he was matched up against this other kid Sam from my school, and they were going to have a fight on June 18th, which is where I just fought. And then I was getting ready for this kickboxing fight. So my coaches gave me this kickboxing fight instead. They're like, if we can't get you an MMA fight, well, let's get you on this kickboxing smoker show. And I would think that was April 23rd. So I started getting ready for that. But the day before that fight, my coaches came to me and they're like, hey, Sam actually tore his ACL. Like he's out of the fight with Daniel Jimenez on June 18th. So we don't want to put this like too much in your head, but we need to know if you want to take that fight after this. So I had the kickboxing fight the next day. And I was like, fuck it, I'll take it. Like I'm sick of getting turned down. I need to get these fights in. Let's do it. So I did the kickboxing fight and then I won that. Got 30-27s on all 3 scorecards. And then we went straight into camp the next week for the MMA fight. So I started getting ready for this kid Daniel. and scrappy little tough kid. As if any of you guys saw the video of that armbar attempt I put him in, the kid is tough as nails. Like his arm was like looked like rubber in my lap, and he just got out. It was incredible. But I started preparing for that fight. I had about 8 weeks, seven, something like that, and because I needed about a week to recover my shin from the kickboxing fights. I think I had a 6 or 7 week training camp for this fight. And I was hitting my strength and conditioning hard, cardio hard. And when it came to the week of the fight, I did my first water load. But the water load, I don't really know if I correctly did it or not. You know, I had some weight issues the day of the weigh-ins. So Friday, I go to the gym to weigh in, and I'm all like water loaded and stuff. So I expected to be about like 30, 33, 34, but I get to the gym, I'm 135.8 pounds. And this is the day of the weigh-ins at like noon. So I'm like, shit, I got to lose 10 pounds today. Right. So, I get in the sauna with Brian again. Little B was there for me all day, from 12 in the morning till 8:30 at night, cutting weight with me. He's a true friend. But I ended up cutting this weight. It was a horrible experience. Like one of the hardest days of my life making this weight, right? I initially missed weight when we get to the fight shop. So we have to be at this fight shop at 7 p.m. for weigh-ins, right? So I head over, and I know I'm still too heavy. My coach, Ed Herman, he knows I'm too heavy. He's like, listen, we're going to throw your sauna suit back on, put all your sweatpants, sweatshirt on, wrap you in blankets, and you're going to just lay in the back seat on the way to the fight shop so you can keep hot and keep sweating. So I walk in the fight shop, everyone's ready to weigh in besides me. I'm like still in all my shit, all my sauna suits. I walk straight into the bathroom, I strip, and my wife just dries me with all these paper towels. So I change into my fight shorts. We're just in the bathroom for 5 minutes. I'm still profusely sweating. She's just drying it off me. And then I go to weigh in, but I actually miss at 27.6. So I'm 1.6 over, and that's with the hoop on here, right? So this is my first time making 25, right? If I had known, I probably could have planned the cut a little bit better, which obviously next time it will go much smoother. My first MMA fight was at 135. It was on 15 days notice, my debut. I didn't cut any weight at all. The kid was super strong in the cage. I still won, but I don't want to be fighting these 35ers. So, I ended up making weight by the end of the night, right? But it was horrible. I had to go across the street to the LA Fitness from the gym and cut for another hour and a half until I made the weight with Ed Herman and Brian just in my ear. My wife, she's a trooper. She was down in the lobby waiting for me the whole time. And they're just telling me I can do it the whole time. I'm on the bike, like having an out of a body experience. Like I told Ed, like, I feel like I'm not even here anymore. He's like, just keep pedaling. You're still sweating a lot. You're not like dry yet. You're good. So we go make the weight, whatever. It was a tough weight cut though. And then, the next day is the morning of the fight, and I feel much better after rehydrating overnight. So I go to the gym, I do my little shakeout warm up, and then I go get an acai bowl, and then we have to go head over to the fights. So I go head over, we have to do medicals and whatnot. And then I was about the 9th fight, and I just hate that waiting period. I had a couple teammates coming up before me, the 5th and the 7th fight. And one of them is one of my white belts who comes into my no-gi classes all the time. I teach Monday nights and Friday nights at American Top Team. And so it's one of my students. So it's like I kind of want to watch, but I don't. You know, I don't want to fuck up my adrenaline, but I couldn't help it. But he ended up getting the first round finish. It was great performance by him. Ground and pound the kid out. So that was nice. I was able to just relax after, get ready for the fight. And then we're in that first round in the fight, and I had that deep arm bar. I'm cranking on it. His arm's like bending and popping and making noises, but the kid's not tapping. He's tough as nails. He gets out. We have a back and forth second round. I get a takedown. I get mount. I'm not able to do too much with it, but I had good control time for a while. He's able to get out. He doesn't really do anything. And then the round kind of ends. And then the third round was hell. So I actually get knocked down in the third round. I think it's about a minute into the third round. So I get knocked down right in front of Ed, and Ed's just yelling at me to get up. But I'm like, my legs like aren't working, right? I'm mentally there. Like I didn't get knocked down flat. I just got knocked down to my butt. And I'm like, I don't really want to stand up, because if I stand up, I'm just going to get knocked down again. So I'm trying to think like how Charles approaches his fights in a way, right? I'm like, I can recover down here. This kid's scared of me down here from the armbar attempt, and he's just throwing like little leg kicks from the outside, and I'm like, all right, I can just chill for a second, you know. But I'm like, I don't know if I won that second round, so I do need to get the fuck up. So I start trying to go into some leg entanglements. This kid grabs the cage and stuff, and then we end up separating. I stand back up. He hits me again, and I drop to a knee. I stand up, I clinch him, and I fire a huge knee. So he starts to back up a little bit from the knee. It's probably one of the cleaner shots I landed the whole fight. Then we're just kind of scrapping for the last minute, basically. And then it went to the judge's decision. And I was thinking that we're going to get a draw. I was thinking I might have won the first 2 rounds and they might be giving him a 10-8 for dropping me in the last one, even though I was going forward at the end. Or vice versa, since the second round was so close, they might give me a 10-8 for almost finishing the armbar in the first round and then give him the last 2 rounds. So I'm like, we're about to get a draw either way here. So I hear the first scorecard's 29-28 for me. And then I hear a 30-27 scorecard for him. In my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? I almost broke this kid's arm. Like, well, on what earth does he win the first round? So now I'm like nervous. I'm like, damn, dude, these judges are going to fuck me right here and give him the split decision. But I end up getting a 29-28 on the last scorecard as well. Won the first 2 rounds on 2 of the judges' scorecards. A bunch of the crowd was cheering. His little section was booing a bit. I jumped up on the cage, started yelling, and it was just a fucking awesome moment. So that was the number like 8th ranked flyweight. So that's what helped me move up to number 2 after that fight. So,
dude, that's an incredible story.
It was fucking nuts. And then on top of it, when I was driving home after my tire popped on the bridge from Portland into Washington, and I had to wait 3 hours for a tow truck after just fighting this kid, doing the weight cut and everything. So it was like a crazy ass weekend. It was fucking nuts.
Dude, that like the 10 pounds in one day thing. Very few people who are watching this will understand. I don't understand 10 pounds in one day. I've cut weight before, but not that. Dude, that's insane. You're not a big guy.
The first six, my body started going into shock for a second and like getting really tight. And I actually had to drink a little bit of water to keep cutting. So it was crazy day.
Dude, I'm glad you fucking went out there and got the dub, man. Well deserved.
Me too, man. It was such a hectic weekend. The win fucking meant a lot. So it was cool,
man. It's amazing, dude. 2-0.
We end up going 6-0 as a team that night as well. So I had 5 other teammates on that card. We went 6-0 and we won the light heavyweight title in like the co-main event. So that was pretty cool.
Good stuff.
My teammate Nate, shout out Nate, light heavyweight champion FCFF.
Let him know, bro. So we're a little bit short on time here. Coming off this big win, 2-0 amateur. I'm not sure how old you are. How old are you?
I'm 28. I'll be 29 in October.
I was gonna say 27. So
we're trying to rush this amateur career a little bit.
A little bit. That's what I was gonna ask though. You're still pretty young, man. You're entering your prime. What's next? 2-0, number 2 PNW. What's next?
So the goal is to go pro before I'm 30. So it still gives me about a year and a half, a little bit less than a year and a half. So I want to get like 3 or 4 more amateur fights in. My goal is to fight 2 more times this year. I'm going to try and get one in by the end of the summer, either August or September, and then fight 1 more time before the year's up. I want to be the FCFF flyweight champion before the year's up and defend the title. And then I want to go into my pro career after
that. I can't wait to see you in the UFC someday, man. Like watching you on Submission Underground was like awesome, but man,
thanks.
When the buff hits it with Kevin, Shaughnessy, oh my god,
yeah,
crazy.
It's gonna be cool. It'll be a special moment for everyone for sure.
But yeah, dude, like thanks for coming on here. Stay busy, keep kicking ass, and like, dude, like I don't know. I'm excited to share this. I'm excited for people to watch this and just listen to that story because amateur fighters don't necessarily always get the attention they deserve. You guys are the hardest working fighters, in my opinion. And I know you personally more than other fighters. You're a hardworking dude, man. Keep at it. And
thanks,
like,
man.
Karma's going to come your way.
I appreciate that. I think a lot of people don't realize what it takes to even become a pro fighter because like you said, like I'm at work right now and I just have to work through this whole amateur career and you just got to do it until you can get enough to start getting paid. Luckily, I have some sponsors helping me on the way. PDX Fit, it's where I do my strength conditioning, one of my main sponsors. And then I have the Underdog Lawyer, the Underdog Law Firm backing me. So they're assuring that I get some money in my pockets through this amateur career. And I really appreciate that a lot. So.
Awesome, man. So real quick, super quick before we head out, most people know, but where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Any shout outs?
So Twitter, it's at Kevjitsu, one word, Kevjitsu. On Instagram, I have it separated with the underline, Kev underline Jitsu. Some fuck has Kevjitsu already. Might have to pay that guy off some point to get the URL from him. But yeah, it's Kev_Jitsu on Instagram, at Kevjitsu on Twitter. I'll probably start posting to my YouTube page soon. It's also just Kevjitsu. And yeah, you guys can find me there pretty much.
Awesome. Definitely follow him. He posts some cool shit. But ladies and gentlemen, Hide your kids, hide your wife if you're in the Pacific Northwest. Kev Shaughnessy.